Of African dance. And here are the 5 traditional African dances you have to watch right now. If you like informative and educational videos on Africa, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to catch all our latest videos. If you like informative.
Well back. Okay. I hope that was enjoyable, seeing the different dances of our family on the continent there. I think that's it's a beautiful thing to look at, to see the different types of dances that we do and all. So we're gonna get started. Another week, right? We got a lot to cover, and yeah, a lot to cover today. So just stay focused. Take notes if you need to, because we got a lot of things we're going to focus on. Okay. All right, real quick. For those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher known to us as Panabab Yananan, also known as Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture. We identify as Wu-Sabat, also known as Wu-Nawap, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound, right, reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutui. In essence, it means we lived in harmony with natural nature. As African people, people identify as our culture as animism, meaning that everything within nature itself is energy, spirit, and we were in harmony with the different types of spirit forces and spirit energies in nature. And we argue as students of Wu-Sabat that due to the fact we've gotten away from our ancient cultures, due to the fact we got away from being in harmony and at one with nature, it is the direct results of our suffering that we've been dealing with for the last 500 years under racism, white supremacy, and the spell of Leviathan for the last 6,000 years. And we say that the only way Black people's problems are going to change is if we get back to living our culture, to live up for and by each other. We did a lecture on that called Ubuntu, for us to be at one with each other, right? To get back into the power of love, what we call Ashak, for us to get away from the cultures that has been harming us, and that's Western cultures, foreign cultures, does not work for us. And we argue that our problems will not end until we get back to living a culture that is designed to empower us as a people, as an African people around the globe. And so I'm just one of many students, right, who are dedicated to trying to re-educate our people about this ancient culture. That's what we have dedicated ourselves to. The master teacher has been teaching for 50 some odd years, trying to re-educate us, and that's our job. And I like to just put a disclaimer out there. I'm not above making mistakes, making errors, and if I do, I'm not above correcting those mistakes and errors for those who bring it to my attention. So I think that's important. Now, before we get started, we go through we do a prayer, right, and then we get into the principles of our culture, right. So let's see the prayer system that we go through before we get started. It's called Pa Sawat Wu Pa Taraq. Tahru. Penen Safa Kawun. Pa Sawat Wu Pa Taraq. Z Kawuna Nazula Laha Enkum. Maneh Saba'at Wu Sai. Ameh Hade Un. Shafe'un. Maneh Salafukun Wu Nataru. Ajula Ye Nafasukun. Afuk Shade Kawun Kuma. Pa Sawat Wu Pa Taraq. This book, The Truth and the Way, it was sent down for you all from Sabat Wu Side, star constellation, as a guidance and a healing from your ancestors and overseers. Return to your own, accept what is yours, the truth and the way. And nun tawa endkum lahe penan shafe un wu alaj. And nun tawa endkum lahe nasui nun. And nun tawa endkum lahe ashuk. And come at the Salafunun, and on at the Qara'ukum, and on Talub Nasar Kuma, and on Talub Nasar Kuma, and so nun Sayanataru, and so nun Salafunun, and on at the Munwapu. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashak. You are our ancestors. We are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, our divine ancestors. Help us, our ancestors. We are Musba'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Jenna 4. Okay. All right. So, as we do every week, we get into our core principles as students of Wu-Sabat / Wu-Nawab is an important imperative for you guys to understand these core principles, to learn to live by these core principles. All of our lectures are based around these core principles, guys. I say this every week, and I'm going to continue to say it, and hopefully everyone will, you know, uh, become familiar with that. So it's imperative, right? First principle is Ashak, right? Stands for the power of love. That is the ultimate. Ashak is the creative force. It is the creative force that we all come from, what you call non-ether. Once you learn to tap into this spirit force of Ashak, this is what is going to restore us. This is how we're going to get back into working together as one people in unity when we embody this principle, right? Principle number 2 is resurrection. The goal is to become goddesses and gods by opening our third eye, is to restore ourselves as our ancestors used to live. This is the whole objective of our doctrine, is to teach us how to restore ourselves, which is resurrection, back to how we used to live. The ones who built those magnificent pyramids, right? Principle number 3 is the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for our divine mind. Ma'at stands for order. We did lectures on those, so I always recommend people to watch those lectures if they have not, and to rewatch them again if you haven't watched it in a while. It's important. Principle number 4 is relationships, right? We live up for and by each other. As Africans, we lived as a community in harmony with one another. And our ultimate goal is getting back to that lifestyle that we once had. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance stands for sound, color, vibration, frequency, right? And matrix stands for the materials that manifest through these resonances. Okay. Principle number 6 is soul and spirit. Your soul is your emotional body. Your spirit is your life force. We did lectures on that, so definitely check that out. Principle number 7 is Leviathan. Stands for moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture. So we did a discussion on that. So definitely watch that lecture. Principle number 8 is health. Health starts with a positive mind, guys, right? And as melanated people, we need much sunlight. The body is 70% water, so we definitely need water. We recommend fasting at least once or twice a week. We recommend a herbal diet, something Dr. Sebi taught. Exercise, rhythmic breathing, meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting are all prerequisites of health. Health is not just physical, but is also spiritual. Complete health, you have to have both in harmony, right, for complete health, and that's imperative. Principle number 9 is acknowledging the creative force, which we identify as Pa'ut, which stands for the all, right? Which being all. Pa'ut, we just say in our language. And the Smat, so the creative force is based on cycles, right? The cycles in nature. And this creative force is Achach. That's the energy of this creative force. We identify the word we identified is called Achach. So that's important as well. Now, for those who choose to become students of Wu-Sabat, you have 3 obligations. First obligation is to raise the self. Second obligation is to fight Leviathan. And third obligation is to work to build Sabbatia, right? So first obligation is you must be born again, as Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wu-Sabat and to live it. That's imperative. We've been so conditioned to live Western culture, and we have to convert back to our original way of doing things. The next thing is your first goal is to correct your name by choosing a Sabian name. So that's, important, and making it known to all. You must correct how you look and dress, right? To start identifying with our cultural clothes. You must learn to speak Sabaean. Very important. You must learn to study our doctrine every day. This is how you gain the right knowledge so that it'll help in your decision making, right? You must practice and master our daily rituals. There's no real growth if you're not doing the rituals, guys. You must learn to turn yourself inside out. That's the ultimate goal of the rituals, which is opening one's third eye and becoming one with your oversoul. And you must always be positive. There is no real accomplishments unless you stay in a positive mind. The second goal is we're at a war with Leviathan, right? And This includes working to free Panabab Yunanin. He'd been kidnapped, and that's a huge war we have with Leviathan, but we have to fight that, right? Promoting Wu-Sabat, we have to do that. Becoming student teachers, right, to teach this information. And our biggest fight is to fight against the six strongest weapons of Leviathan, which is ignorance, fear, ego, anger, your lust and desires, and lies and deceptions. Leviathan feeds off those energies. So we're fighting that. And then your third goal is to work to build Sabbatia. Guys, we have to get our own, our own land back, right, to live our culture. So we work to support each other in business. We help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture. We want to set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. And Ashak is the key to accomplish all our goals. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? A Sabaean is someone who's thoughtful and cares, someone who's helpful and honest, someone who's responsible and hardworking, someone who demands justice, someone who's righteous, someone who's positive and cheerful, someone who's loving and peaceful, someone who's clean, and someone who's kind and considerate. Our purpose. As Sabaeans, our purpose is we're fighting, liberation from adverse forces. That's our purpose, is to liberate ourselves from adverse forces. So one, you must take action each and every day to free yourself of six ether spirits inside and out, which includes Black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. Number two, acknowledge and fight six ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, and the so-called equality of the races. And number three, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature. So that's very important in our fight with, against these adverse forces. Now, word of advice, right? Do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Panabab Yunanin nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka affirmation, that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication, guys. Remember that. This doctrine is based on self-authentication. I can't stress that enough. Okay. Yeah, see. Okay, that's what's up. All right, so now, today we're gonna be going over a series of books that we call Taraq, and these particular books are extremely important. Taraq, as you guys can see, it stands for the way. All right, so I'm going to read through the books like I've done before and do commentary on, the pamphlets that, based on what the information is saying. So that's important. Now, the title for this particular scroll is called Black is Evil, White is Good, right? Black is evil, white is good. So let's get started. Okay, the revelations to the Nuwapians, Taraq, which means the way. Black is evil, white is good. Lehekum, beloved, Kharadu M Natharu, children of the Natharu. Welcome home to your true and only way of life, Wu Nawap. You as NoopooH are renewing your stay in these great and dreadful days. Many are deceived and blinded by the wicked white light and the white lies. So much deception for much too long. 6,000 years of mental sleep is far too long. As for you, as a Salau, which is race, Nagaru, Negroids, were mentally dead in a coma state of ignorance of who you are and where you originated. You were born on the best part of this whole Kawak Taha, which means planet Earth. The richest part of it as well, now called Afaf Ra'e Ka'a, which is Africa, the land of the original people, the Nagaru. You were in your transgression and sinful ways, ignorant to the fact that you are the gods of all races. You lived out of your Kahan Akal, divine mind, and and others worlds acting as they do. That is the way in which you used to live until you came upon Wunawap. You no longer follow their ways, for now you have Taraq, the way, and you will reshape this present Tapal world as a better place in which to live. Unlike when you followed the ways of Pa Daweh Jawef Tapal, the evil, wicked world of the Mukasu, who were the rulers of this present world for the last 6,000 years. That has ended in the year 2000, and their rule is over. You can feel the power of Wunawap at work in those who are disobedient, transforming them inside and out, outside and in. All of you true Nawap-U who live among others at one time, gratifying the cravings of your lusts and greeds. That now dead sinful nature that led your life to following its desires and thoughts. Like the rest, you were by nature objects of the spell of ignorance. Yet, because of the return of Wunawap and the Ashuk Panatharu has for you, they who are rich in kindness for you have made you alive again and forevermore, even when you were mentally dead in transgression. It is by divine love, which is Ashuk, that you are saved. For the Natharu raised you up with myself in these last days of evil rule to prepare you to rule and prepare you for the heavenly realms in Sa'at Wu-Sabat, in order that in the hereafter or in this coming new age, you will be transformed. You as Muntaru, children of the Natharu, will be able to make what is called the dimensional shift as you, Nagaru, are of us. And guys, the dimensional shift is taking place right now. That's the morphic resonancy of the planet and throughout the solar system, throughout this galaxy, and throughout the universe itself is shifting up. We're shifting from a 3 ether environment and we're moving, guys, into a 4 ether environment. And so that's what the dimensional shift is all about, guys. Let me keep going. It says, this is done in acts of kindness and express pa ashuk, and you were not forgotten. Those other Salau races, such as Mangalu, the Asians, will also be able to make this shift as long as they have not degraded their DNA with animals as those of the Mukasu Salau, with their usage of animal parts to prolong their life. And in turn, they have cut themselves out of taking part in the dimensional shift. And so, guys, you have to be, your body, your genetics have to be pure, guys. All these people making all these alterations to their bodies is messing up their morphic resonancy. And that's what's throwing, it's what makes people out of tune with nature. That's why in our culture, we have to maintain being in tune with nature. So as these dimensional shifts occur, we're able to move with these changing cycles. Okay, so keep that in mind. Let's keep going. For it is by facts, truth, you are being renewed. So therefore, remember that formerly you were in ignorance, in blind faith or beliefs in ghosts and unconfirmed gods programmed into your mind by those who ruled you for 6,000 years ago. And let me speak to you of light and dark. For under the spell, you accepted that Hamim, black, was bad, dark was Jaweh, evil, even called the Mudwad, devil, the prince of darkness. I ask you, are you more afraid of your home in the darkness or when it's on fire, burning, which is light? I ask you, is it darkening that strikes and kills, or is it lightning And does not the Bible teach in Luke chapter 10, verse 18? And it reads, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven, right? King James Version, guys. So is not the devil, Satan, being likened to lightning? It's not darkness or blackness that is evil or wicked or the devil's. Dark has not killed or is not an angel of evil. It's light, guys. Refer to Job chapter 18, verse 5, and it reads, yea, the light of the wicked shall be put out, and the spark of his fire shall not shine. Why is black evil or darkness evil if their own Bible says otherwise? You feel safe to sleep at night when it is dark. Nara, fire, is nawar, light. It kills millions, burns homes, cars, and people. Bombs, explosives blown up as light as fire, crackers, and hand grenades. These destructive light, white. In their Bible, it also says their God said, let there be light, or white. Dark does not blind, yet bright, Laben Nawar, white light does. It blinds the sight. In their Bible, it also says their God said, let there be light. If he had to ask for light, then he must have dwelt in darkness. In fact, he must have been darkness. If you refer to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and it reads, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Quick question, Allison. I don't want to take the virgin. If you were forced to take the vaccine, what will that vaccine interfere with us ascending? Oh, that's a great question. Okay. No, you can guys can take the vaccine. You can purify yourself of the vaccine. I repeat, you can take the vaccine. That's not something we've been teaching against. You can purify yourself of the vaccine. As I go through these classes, we'll be explaining in detail how to do that, how to purify yourself of all the impurities that we put in our bodies. Okay. So don't be afraid. In fact, one of the reasons why I would be in support of the vaccines because of all of the restrictions that they're creating for those who don't, and they're making it very difficult. And so, I'm not in support of their systems per se, because I don't recommend us trusting anything. But we're now in a situation, unfortunately, we don't have our own systems. And that's what we're supposed to be, fighting for us to set up our own systems so that we wouldn't be subject to these things. But because we're choosing to live in their systems, they're the ones in control and we're not, So that's a huge problem for us. But let me keep going. Okay, verse 44. You were without nawar, light, in the raham, the womb of your mudatet, your mother, right? So we grew in darkness in the wombs of our mothers, he's talking about. And safe as we grew. Now, it's after their God created the light that sin and the evil starts to be known. Evil was laduda, born with the light. And each person does not know evil or act evil until they are born into this lit up tapa world. The devil lives in hell's fire, Nora. It's not fire light. Pale, weak leprosy is turning white as snow in their Bible, in their own Bible. Refer to Exodus chapter 4, verse 6, Numbers 12, 10, Leviticus chapter 13, and other places, 2 Kings chapter 5. So is being chamem, black, daweh, evil, and curse, or is being labin, white, daweh, evil, and curse, right? According to their own Bible, labin, white, is the curse, and safir, yellow, then farar, fur, is part of that curse. Having yellow thin hair, blonde hair, guys. It says it in the Bible. If you refer to Leviticus chapter 13, right? All found in Leviticus chapter 13. So are freckles, spots in the Muslim Quran, the blue-eyed evil Quran? Actually, I believe it's chapter 20, verse 102. That was a misprint in this book. It reads, the day he, Raphael, blows the horn, and we gather the crowds of the ones who are guilty. This is the day of the blue-eyed ones, right? So the Quran even talks about those who with blue eyes are the ones who are guilty in the eyes of Allah in their Quran. Goes on to say, now the Asiatic black man would be a man originally born or from Asia, an Oriental, an Asian born from a Mongol, an Asian, a Mongoloid, not a Negroid, African, originally born or from Africa. Don't call yourselves Asiatic black men unless you're an Asian, and there are black Asians. And there are black Indians or Javadu. Yet, unlike us, Nagaru, they don't have wabar, which is hair, woolly hair. They have farah, fur, thin, flat, thin fur. Negroid is from Latin. Negros means black. Sudanese meant black person. Ethiopian means burnt black person. So does Nigerian and Niger. Yet in those lands, from mixing outside your race, you have many dark-skinned persons. Yet they have lost their wabar, their woolly hair, guys, for their farah, fur. The Morenos, also Latin, meaning dark skin, to black, is from where the word Moor comes from. Simply to be called a Moor or Moorish means black-skinned person. Also, again, after much mixing with Arabians, Turks, and Spaniards, these Moors became mixed, and many lost their wabar, their woolly hair, guys. Our race's uniqueness. Our woolly hair is our uniqueness, guys. Now, Afafre'e Ka'au, Nagaru, are the only people on the Taha, the earth, with nappy, kinky, woolly hair, ones with wabar. Okay, guys? Remember that. To be a true African, Negroid is to be unique, the one true God of Pa-Kawak, the planet Earth. Look where it starts. Let's look at the Laban, white, or pale man's Christian Bible. If you refer to John chapter 1, verse 1, it reads, it says, in the beginning was the word. First, let's go back to the beginning of their Bible and see what that word they call logos in Greek was. What was this word? Who said it, right? This logos, meaning to utter, which means to relay, or speech or spoken word, to say. It says, so let's see what was said by this Mukwan being, or Mukwan or Mukwan the beings in the beginning. If we refer to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, to show it's in the beginning. According to them, it says in the beginning, God, the Hebrew Strongs, for Elohim, which means gods. It's a plural, right, guys? So when you read Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning, God did this. Is really, in the Hebrew, it means Elohim, the master's pointing out. And it says the Elohim, which is gods or judges, is a plurality, created the heavens and the earth. So it was Elohim in the beginning. That is a group. Not one of the Elohim is called, and one of the Elohim is called El, right? Refer to Hebrew Strong. This is the Bible dictionary. Look up the word, meaning God. Now, as you read in Psalms 82, verse 1, it reads, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty El. God, he judgeth among the gods, which is Elohim. So you see both the plural used as Hebrew Strong's Elohim, gods, and the single used as in Hebrew Strong, God, El, which is God. So Elohim is the plural and El is the singular, guys. Now let's return to Genesis chapter 1 to see this. As it happened in the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, And the spirit, which is ruach, they have the word ruach, which really means soul or breath or wind, or they got spirit ghost. And it says, and it's the exact same word used in the Muslims Quran, chapter 15, breath or breathe into him my spirit. And verse 17 or chapter 17 says, meaning soul or breath or wind or spirit ghost. So you see it's soul, breath, wind, ghosts, or spirits. Now let's return to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. And the spirit, which is soul or ghost or breath of the Elohim, gods, moved upon the face of the waters. So one of the Elohim gods moved upon the face of the waters. One of the Elohim gods as a soul, ghost, spirit, breath came down to earth, which was covered with water, and it was dark. This Elohim as one was an El or God. This El or God was called Ruach in Hebrew, or in Arabic, Ruh, and later called Yahweh or Jehovah or Jah in Hebrew, right? Meaning existence or live, alive, from Heya, Hebrew strong, meaning being or became alive. So this, let's see. So this El called Ruach became Ha or Haya to Yahweh or Lord. So they called him the Lord God, which in fact in the Hebrew is Yah or Elohim, living one of the gods, existing one of the gods, who came down to earth. Now back to Genesis 1, the beginning, to see what that word was that was spoken by this Lord God or Lord of the gods, as he was called in John chapter 1, verse 1, the word or the word of God or gods. Now in flesh breathing wind, breath. Now read Genesis chapter 1, verse 3, and it says, and God said, let there be light. So this El of the Elohim spoke to the Elohim who sent him to earth and asked them to turn on the light so that he could see in the darkness. Remember what Genesis chapter 1, verse 2 said, and void darkness, so he could not see, and asked for light. As you know, back then there was no such thing as electricity, no electric lights of any kind, only Nara, fire, or sunlight, and the Aha, moon, did not exist yet. And we're referring to Genesis chapter 1, verse 2. So the moon even come into picture in there, according to their Bible. Then it goes on to say, and no spiritual knowledge was taught yet. So it's not light as knowledge yet, because no man or woman, according to this Bible, existed yet to teach knowledge as light. So it could only be fire as illumination. Remember, NoopooH, we know better. This is according to Abrahamism religions, Mosesism, Jesusism, and Mohammedism. So this incarnated El of Elohim called Yahweh asks for light, which is Ore in Hebrew, guys, meaning illumination, lightning, brightness, kindle, fire, shine, or light. So you see it's fire or illumination, which he asks then to shine forth so that he could see in the darkness. So we return back to John, the book of John, chapter 1, verse 1. And it says, in the beginning was the word, which is logos, right? Refer to Greek. From the Hebrew word, dabar, meaning spoken, a word or words, or to speak. So you can see it was a spoken word. He spoke out and asked for fire, light. So the word in the beginning is or, which is fire or light. So the word was with or said to the gods or Elohim, or in Greek theos of the Theo, or Yahweh of the Elohim, or El of the Elohim. And later they say John chapter 1, verse 14, and it says, and the word was made flesh, which is sarx in Greek, meaning flesh, skin, meat, human nature, or human being. So as you read the fire light was made into flesh, just as it says about another being in 2 Corinthians, if you refer, chapter 11, verse 14, and it says, and no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. So these beings were fire, light that came down to earth, made, transformed into skin. And that's in the King James Version of the Bible, guys. Then it says, these angels are good and bad ones, as you read in Job chapter 1, verse 6. It says, now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. And the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. So you guys, you see that the Bible keeps talking about the devil's made of light, the devil's made of fire and light, and that's what he represents in the Bible. But yet they're constantly teaching us darkness is bad, the dark is bad, black is bad. But yet their Bible doesn't teach that, guys. Let's keep going. Satan comes as one of the angels walking here on earth, right? You may not recognize one of them as angels of light and fire, as it says in Hebrews chapter 13. Now read this, Hebrews chapter 2, verse 14. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death, that is the devil, and deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. Now, is blackness black, or darkness dark bad, or is it wawed good? Right. Darkness is actually good, guys. And then after reading it yourself, is whiteness light, white, lightness light, good or bad? Right. It means it's bad in the Bible, right? The lightness, the light, which is represents the devil, or Lucifer, or morning star. Let's keep going. The Bible makes it plain. You have been deceived by a white angel, an angel of light, lightning, Satan himself and his angels. Okay. And it goes on to say, the korabu, the cherubim in flesh as leopards. Look what it says in Psalms chapter 18, as well as in Psalms chapter 99 and verse 106, guys. Now, keep this in mind. The teaching lies. This is the nature of the devil. If you refer to book of John, chapter 8, verse 44, and it says, ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Right? Then it goes to say, they say dark is evil, black is bad, white is good, light is good. So anything dark is considered gloomy, dim, unenlightening, or wicked, because the absence of light is darkness, darkened, darky, or darkling, or darky lies. Black, blackball, black magic, black mark of illicit, blackout, loss of memory or consciousness, black widow, venomous spider, right? Black guard, a scoundrel, black male, extorted by threats. You see the lies they teach, how black is misused to put fear of black-skinned people in their karadu children, when it's them that do all the world's evils, wars, killings, and rapes. For 6,000 years, you have lived in the fear of darkness, while their Bible says in 1 Kings, then spawned Solomon, the Lord said that he would dwell in the thick darkness, right? This is the Lord, right? And who's existing in darkness, according to their Bible. Then it goes on to say, Chronicles chapter 6, their Lord God was in darkness before Nawar, light or fire, guys. So there are two groups of Mukwanu beings called God or gods. Some took on human skin as Mukmamu, humanoids, yet pale, Labin, white skin, and walked up and down in the earth, causing Daweh, evil, and Jawetness, wickedness. So he's talking about there are angels who are actually pale or white, and he's talking about those ETs, the Aldebarans, guys. And then it goes on to say, and you have black devils doing the work of Satan, teaching his lie about them, having them say, I'm not African, I'm this or that, except anything except what they are. In our homeland, under our own laws, our children are born in darkness with no artificial light or electrical lights, only candle lights or none. That was an African tradition, guys. We used to be born in darkness. That was one of the traditions we used to have. And goes on to say, we can see in dark, no others can, right? Why? Because we are darkness, which represents Nuntat Wunun. That was one of the principles of ancient Kemet in Egypt, right? The creative force we identify as Nuntat Wunun. And then we said Nadartri, personifying the primordial waters out of which emerged the creator, Nathar Tartun, right? The creator. So this particular scroll was about the whole concept of they use their Bible and they teach us, right? The prince of darkness is the devil, which, as we just read, that's a lie. That's a lie. Because their Bible teaches that Lucifer is a bright morning star. If you refer to Isaiah, he talks about that and all, that Lucifer is light. And their Bible teaches that God existed in darkness. So that this is very important because it has everything to do with how we as a people perceive ourselves with this black is bad, darkness, and you know, the swordiness, and they'll talk about, you know, Batman, the Dark Knight, and anything dark and black is bad. And that's to get us away from identifying with our blackness, guys. This is why our people, you know, who you got? And we talked about this before. All these females from Keisha Cole, blonde hair. You have Queen Latifah, blonde hair. Beyonce, blonde hair. Little Kim, blonde hair. Who else you got out there? Nicki Minaj, blonde hair. Mary J. Blige, blonde hair. Why all these black women running around with blonde, stringy hair? You know, that's the spell we keep talking about. Our people are under this hypnotic spell that white is right. You got, who's that? The Serena running around with like she's Wonder Woman with blonde hair. Again, that belief that black is bad and white is right, and white is right is, you know, that's the color of righteousness. When their Bible says blonde hair is a curse. Leviticus chapter 13, guys, read it. Read it. Leviticus chapter 13, Leviticus chapter 14. Question from Zamal. Did you hear about the state of Nawapia naming their state official religion as animism, aka Nawapu? No. When you say the state of Nawap, did you hear about the state of Nawapia? When you say the state of Nawapia, I'm not familiar with that. So you gotta be clear on the state of Nawapia. Where did you hear that from? Because I'm not familiar with it. But animism, I mean, we do teach that animism would be considered our religion. If we really, our culture is a spiritual science, is not a religion, although others would call us a religious organization, but it's a spiritual science. All African culture were spiritual sciences, not religions. So that's imperative that you guys understand the difference. Okay. Very imperative. But this whole black is bad, white is good. This is a reflection of what we're dealing with in this society, guys. You know, we're dealing with so much discrimination. We deal with so much injustice due to the fact of us being black. And you have, you know, the Mukaso being white, and they set up their system to benefit them and to disadvantage us. You know, like I want to show you guys these particular stories on this whole thing. Now, this is a story that just came out last week about a white woman, a white judge sending black children to jail by the hundreds, guys. Now listen to this and check this out.
By ProPublica and Nashville Public Radio has uncovered an alarming pattern of arresting and detaining elementary school children in one Tennessee county. Lisa Desjardins has the story.
Rutherford County, Tennessee, has detained a record number of children, some as young as 7 years old in past years. Some were arrested for playground fights, others for cursing. In one 2016 case, 4 elementary school age girls were detained for failing to intervene in a fight. A disproportionate number of the children involved and arrested were Black. Maribah Knight from Nashville Public Radio is the lead writer on the report, and she joins us now. Thank you so much, Maribah. The focus is on this one county, Rutherford County, and an attorney there told you at one point some 500 kids he thought had been arrested by mistake and another 1,500 detained over a point of time as part of a jailing system that seems like it was subjective. Essentially, at points, police and judge were deciding on how the kid looked or how the kid was acting in a moment, whether they would be detained. At the center of your story is the arrest of 11 children surrounding that idea of a fight, who intervened, who didn't. Can you explain exactly what happened with those kids and how?
Now, guys, real quick, 11 children, right? Black children, mind you, were arrested just for looking at a fight, watching a fight, and they were arrested. This is in Tennessee, guys. And they said over a period of a couple of decades, they've arrested about 1,500 children over silly incidents like this. But let me keep listening.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Essentially, you set it up really well. There were 11 children in all that were arrested for watching a fight. The 2 that were actually involved in fighting were so young, 5 and 6, that they weren't culpable for their actions, but the other children were. And they were arrested under the charge of criminal responsibility, which, as we outlined in the story, was not even a real charge. It's a prosecutorial theory. So one can't be charged with criminal responsibility. One can be, say, charged with assault under criminal responsibility. But that's just the beginning of kind of the myriad mistakes that happened in this case. So yeah, they wound up arresting 11 kids in total using this charge. There were an 8-year-old with pigtails arrested and handcuffed. A 6th grader fell to her knees. A 4th grader threw up in the assistant principal's office when she found out she was being arrested. It was just a terrible, terrible experience for these children and a terrible moment for this system. But it really shined a light on what was happening.
Help us understand the role of those in power who seem to even create this system, an elected judge, and then also police officers. How did this happen?
Yeah, so these arrests, as you outlined, took place in Rutherford County, which, as we write in the story, had been illegally arresting and jailing kids for years, all under the watch of one judge, juvenile court judge Donna Scott Davenport. She has been the county's only juvenile court judge since 2000, when the court began. And she has a really outsized role. She oversees the courts and she oversees the juvenile jail. And up until this incident, she directed police on what she called our process for arresting kids, which basically was every child who was arrested, even for something minor like this or like truancy, they must first go to the jail. The judge told law enforcement this explicitly in a memo. This is not normal routine procedure with children. Then the second part of this is that once they got to the jail, they were subjected to something called the filter system, which was implemented by the jailer, Lynn Duke. And that was an overly broad assessment of what a child was deemed, whether a child was deemed a true threat. I can talk more about that, but it was overly broad, it was illegal, and it was happening for decades.
You know, there's a lot of discussion about this topic of what incarceration does. The judge in this case has argued on radio shows that this policy was meant to build character and that kids would come out of this detention system better. What did you find about how kids were affected?
Now listen to this, guys. This judge is arguing. She was saying how the judge is arguing that by locking up black children, it'll make them better. Guys, this is how they instill fear in our people of their so-called justice system. It's about control. It's about, if you don't follow what we say, if you don't follow our system, if you don't follow our laws, we're gonna lock you up or we're gonna kill you, which is, you know, your choice, right? And this is what we're dealing with. This is white is good, black is bad. White is good, black is bad, and the whole system is based around this type of behavior. And they brainwashed the whole public. Well, they brainwashed the whole globe thinking like this: white is good and black is bad theology, guys. And you see how they're treating our own children. The question we have to ask ourselves: why are we still supporting this? That's the question. Why are we still supporting this? Why are our people are continuing to ignore these obvious things that this system is designed against us? What is it going to take for our people to wake up to this reality? That's just one of many reports. There's another report. And this report here, again, just happened last week. And it's not too far from where I live here in Georgia, right? Now, listen to this.
Inside of schools are reflective of racism at home. There's a student who has gone viral for saying the N-word.
If the government did one thing right this year, they allowed seniors.
Oh, commercials, guys.
Seniors 64 and over can get free dental care, crowns, implants.
And other.
I think, did my sound pop? No, this system. Can you guys hear me? Press 1 if you guys can hear me. I think I had an issue with my sound. Press 1 if you guys can hear me. I think I had an issue with my sound. I want to make sure the sound is okay. So if you guys can hear me, press 1 if you guys can hear me. Make sure. Okay, great. I see it. Okay, so here's another incident happened last week. You know, and it's not too far. Like I said, it's about 30 minutes. This incident is in a school, and they're talking about how the school system is segregated, right? Because white people don't want to go to the same schools as blacks. You know, they make sure that their children are in separate schools. Okay, and you know that's how they set this, you know, the system up. And guys, we gotta. I don't know what is it gonna take for our people to realize that their system is not designed for us, right? We are the enemy in their system. I mean, it's just that simple. And so, you know, I'm not gonna go through this whole thing because it's all the same. But something I do think you guys need to know is that since, especially us here in the States, we've been under attack of racism, white supremacy, right after the so-called abolition of slavery, since they, you know, so-called freed us, which, you know, anyone who knows better, we've never been free. We've been allowed off the plantation to roam around, you know, this territory, right? But we've been under strict control ever since. And it's an imperative that we understand the level of control that they've had on us. And it's never stopped ever since they so-called, because, you know, when they had it had us in slavery, they had strict controls of us, on the plantation. Now, when they released us from slavery, the question was, how was they going to maintain that level of control? And so we've been under surveillance ever since. As Black people, we've been under their surveillance. And the first program that I know of that they started to do mass surveillance on us is, let me see, this is a report. See if I can find it right here. It's called the Correspondence of the Military Intelligence Division relating to Negro Subversion. I repeat, the Correspondence of the Military Intelligence Division relating to Negro Subversion. This is this was a branch in the United States military, right? Was designed for Negro subversion, and they have the years of 1917 to 1941. Now, this division of the military actually started in the 1880s, like 1888, that this division actually was set up for intelligence. They did international intelligence retrieval, and they did domestic intelligence retrievals. And the goal of this was to what they called Negro subversion. That was their goal, guys. What is the word subversion? Let's look up the word subversion. I think that's important for us to be aware. The word subversion means to undermine, the undermining of the power and authority of an established system or institution, the ruthless subversion of democracy. So the goal is to undermine any and all Black organizations. Now, this is going back, it started in the late 1800s, right? Started in the late 1800s that they created what they call the MID, Military Intelligence Division, the MID. And let's see some of the things that the MID, well, hold on. Let's see. This is a background on the MID. It says the Military Intelligence Division originated in 1885. So you got the date. The Military Intelligence Division originated in 1885. So that was what, 20 years after so-called slavery. 20 years after slavery, and they created a division in the United States military for the sole purpose of subverting Black people. You got that? So that's very important. You guys understand this, okay? Let's see. So I'm gonna skip that. Let's go here. It says the major function of the MID and its predecessors was the collection of military information. Initially, this related also exclusively to foreign military information. Gradually, but particularly after the outbreak of World War I, counterintelligence, counter-propaganda, censorship, and military morale became MID responsibilities. In connection with these activities, the MID monitored activities within the Black community that were potentially disruptive to the American war effort. It compiled information relating to discrimination against Black soldiers and Black civilian employees of the War Department, it says, collected intelligence on major civil disturbances, and kept abreast of the state of morale of Black troops at camps in the United States, right? So it talked about that, guys. Let's see what else it said. To keep going, it says, for communications related to Negro subversion, the MID assigned a master number. So this is just a heading for this organization, but if you guys can research this, the master number is 10218, where it gives detailed accounts of the intelligence operations they've done in investigating us. Okay, that was going on in the early 1900s. Now keep in mind, this is the time of Noble Drew Ali. This is the time of Marcus Garvey, right? This is the time of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. All of them were in this time frame, so that all of them was under surveillance, right? It goes on to say, most of the documents filed under Negro subversion, the MID, contain information on 3 subjective radical organizations and activities in the Black community that had a potential impact on the military. Discrimination against Blacks, military, and civilians, including incidents leading to race riots, they talk about. It goes on to say, radical activities, this is the goal, and this is what includes organizations like us. Anyone who's in the Nation of Islam, anyone who's a Nawapian, anyone who's a Hebrew Israelite, anyone who's in any type of organization like ours, who are talking about justice and breaking earth from white people and stuff like that, you go on the list. So it's important you guys are aware of this. He goes on to say, radical activities, press accounts, investigative reports from the Bureau of Investigation. Guys, the Bureau of Investigation is the precursor to the FBI, for those who do not know that. The Bureau of Investigation is the precursor to the FBI. So it says investigative reports from the Bureau of Investigation and local authorities. So what they're saying is that we were under surveillance by the FBI in the very beginning, and we was under surveillance by the local police departments. Okay. And it says, and secondhand assessments of the mood in the Black community by Major Joel Spingarn and Major William Loving, the MID's principal experts on Black organizations, which means that they were studying our organizations, guys, which means they had informants, right? Says the reports in the file from the mid 1918 relate to the fear that German propagandists were stirring unrest in the Negro community. And this is something that the master teacher had exposed, that the Nazis were infiltrating Black organizations. Okay, this has to do with the Nation of Islam we talked about. It goes on to say, similar reports dated from 1919 cover Bolshevik agitation among Black groups. Bolsheviks were the communists. A lot of Black people were becoming communists also in these time periods, all the way up into the 60s. This is why Angela Davis had to leave the country, because she was a professed communist and blah, blah, for those who know about her. It goes on to say, quite a few of the reports on radical activities and organizations are from the Department Intelligence Officer in New York City. For instance, the one on general unrest in the Black community, right? He goes on to say, final report on Negro subversion. Loving's report described the reasons for radical activities in the Black community, especially among returning veterans, and characterized organizations and their objectives. Guys, keep in mind, they was allowing Black men to become, you had Black soldiers that were fought in World War I. And so, they was taught how to fight and use weapons and things like that, like never before. So they had to be monitored. These Black soldiers had to be monitored. And there were many cases. This is what they call it, the Red Summer, or the Red, I forget, they had a name for it, when they were just killing us. Massive lynchings in this time period. Okay, guys, massive lynching. Says the military intelligence conclude that with the end of the war and the demobilization of most of the wartime army, demobilization, of most of the wartime army, the MID would no longer take an active part in investigating Negro subversion and conditions in the Black community. That's because that responsibility went to the FBI. So they basically didn't have to focus on it too much. Now, the MID did, however, continue to compile information furnished by other investigative organizations, principally the Justice Department, until the numeric file was retired in 1941, right? So they stopped collecting the data. And like I said, that's because the FBI took over from there. He goes on to say, one subject covered from late in World War I and throughout most of the interwar period was Marcus Garvey and his Universal Negro Improvement Association and Black and African Community League. Information about Garvey's activities in the Caribbean after the war, the alleged connection in the 1930s between Garveyists and the Pacific movement and Japanese agents. Guys, remember the master talked about the Nation of Islam was infiltrated by Japanese intelligence, guys. So that's also important to know. All trying to foster anti-white sentiments among blacks and attempts to recruit men for service in Ethiopia by Pacific movement organizers constitute much of the file on Marcus Garvey, blah, blah, blah. So this was the beginning. Keep in mind, after they so-called, released us from out of slavery, they had to keep us monitored and they had to do subversive things to dismantle any kind of black organization, right? So this was an early report on those things. Now, so it went from the military dealing with this, and it went to the FBI, right? And this was exposed, and I talked about this once before in the Church report. So the FBI had full control over monitoring our organizations and doing subversive things to dismantle our organizations. So listen to this, guys.
Ago, a Senate Select Committee chaired by Senator Frank Church, Democrat from Idaho, was convened to investigate the intelligence activities of the CIA, FBI, IRS, and the NSA.
In this, our third installment in this series, we're looking into the Church Committee's hearing on possible excesses by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Rich Schwartz, former chief counsel for the Church Committee, on November 18, 1975, you testified before the Senate Committee to share the staff's findings on an investigation of FBI intelligence activities. We're going to show a clip of you reading an anonymous letter that the FBI sent to Martin Luther King. Let's watch.
The Bureau went so far as to mail anonymous letters to Dr. King and his wife, which were mailed shortly before he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and finishes with this suggestion. King, there is only one thing left for you to do. You know what it is. You have just 34 days in which to do it. This exact number has been selected for a specific reason. It has definite practical significance. It was 34 days before the award. You are done.
Okay, real quick. This was a letter the FBI sent Martin Luther King telling him to commit suicide or they're going to ruin his credibility because they was going to expose him with sex scandals and things like that. The FBI sent an anonymous letter to Martin Luther King to tell him to commit suicide, guys. That's what they was explaining. This guy was a lawyer who was exposing that information back in the 70s. And this was talking about how the FBI and the CIA were monitoring black people, right? Because remember, they took over from the organization called the MID, the Military Intelligence Division. The FBI took over, monitoring us and creating subversion. Remember, the goal was subversion to stop any black organization, right? The whole rise of a black messiah thing. The goal was to make sure that we remain powerless. Okay, so that's important for you guys to keep in mind. And so then it goes from that to where we at today, right? What is the level of intelligence today? So this is another report that came out, or findings that came out, and this PBS reported this, but listen to this real quick.
At the National Security Agency, they called it the program.
We are under emergency conditions.
Created after 9/11.
Extraordinary means are required to deal with the threat.
Collecting data on American citizens.
You're looking for unknown conspirators, and the way they devised to do that was to look at everybody.
secrets at the highest levels of government.
A whole surveillance program without warrants designed for domestic surveillance. What we're doing is lawful and I think is effective.
Through 2
This
presidencies,
is a highly classified program.
He was collecting the entire internet stream.
He chose to keep the programs largely intact.
That's not just data collection. That's digital surveillance.
I argued it was unethical, illegal, and unconstitutional. And when this comes out, all hell is going to break loose.
tonight on Frontline, United States of Secrets, Part 1, The Program.
Okay, so this was about the Patriot Act. What the Patriot Act allowed the government to do is actually what they started to do. They monitor all electronic transactions. They monitor all electronic transactions. That's what this whole report is about. How they monitor your phone calls. They monitor your emails. They read your emails. They monitor everything you put on Facebook. They monitor all the pictures you put up there on Facebook. Every time, all of us have cell phones. They track all and everyone's movement. That's why these corporations, if you notice, guys, if you're looking to buy something or whatever, you notice that you'll get emails, or if you go on a website, it'll have products or services that you had interest in because they're monitoring all your activity. So this is just a greater extension of the keeping us in line. It's not just black people; they're monitoring everybody, everyone. That's the elite, who control the planet. Everyone is being monitored, and everyone is being marginalized and kept in control. So that those who control and rule can maintain their control and rule by making sure they have superior information, superior knowledge. They know our habits better than we know ourselves. So it's imperative that you understand the system. This is one of the reasons why we have been arguing and teaching for so long. We have to come out of their systems, because the whole goal is to subvert anything we say. In fact, I want to bring this up. This is dealing with the master's teacher and the master's teacher's case, right? This is from the transcripts in the case, and this is the closing arguments of the prosecutor in the master's teacher's case. Okay, and this is the last statement he said in his closing arguments. He says, and I quote, "This is not about the United Nuwaubian Nation, ladies and gentlemen. It never has been. It's about Mr. York. It's about Mr. York. It's not just a regular day," and he goes on, blah, blah, blah. In essence, he's saying that they came after the master and not the organization. That's what he was saying. Because he was explaining how our organization, we're not the criminals, right? We're not the bad guys. It's the leader, Dr. York. But here's the issue with that. Anyone who looks at the charges that the FBI had against us, was their main charge was what they call forfeiture, which was to take our land. So if Dr. York was the bad guy, then why did they need to take our land? If we if we as members of the United Nuwaubian Nation weren't criminals and we were doing, good things, why did they take our community from us? Isn't that a contradiction? This is what we're up against, though. They're obviously, they're lying. The whole goal was to subvert our organization. That's the goal. That's always been the goal. The whole goal is to subvert black organizations, to dismantle black organizations. It's imperative that you guys understand that. It's imperative that you guys understand why we're in this fight, why we're in this struggle, why we teach what we teach. No one should be disillusioned about that. No one should be disillusioned. So I'm going to go over, this is another quick part to that. It's called Black Magic, White Magic, right? Let's see. It says, Lakum, my beloved children, if only you had ashuk, divine love for each other as I love you. And if only you can treat each with ashuk and respect, as well as the planet and your own kata'u, your bodies. Our work here on this planet would be so much easier than it is with the inter-family wars passed on to you by the DNA of the Homo simian or the Homo canine or the human beast man or man's kind. He's talking about the Mukasu, us mixing in, and we have their DNA, we have their bloodline, and by getting their blood in our genetics, we now have their spirit forces in us, and it's their spirit forces in us that gives us all of this disagreement we have. It's why it's hard for us to come together, because we're fighting these inner spirits in our nature. That's why we have so much addictions, and we're behaving just like the Mukasu we are. You know, let's keep going. If only you will help us to help you, Afafre'e Ka'au, the Nagaru Africans, the unique ones, the first and will be the last. For you see, there is a 6,000-year-old Hajj spell upon Afafre'e Ka'au, the Nagaru Africans, woolly-haired people the world over. And it is a Hajj Shalal Nawam, a spell of sleep, spiritual ignorance, and racial blindness cast upon Negroids 6,000 years ago by what became religions of aliens who came into Africa and spread the religious disease and cast Pa Hajj Shalal Akal, the spell of faith, taking away our ancestors' sight, teaching them to walk by faith and not by sight. Refer to 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7. That guy and what's that pastor? What's his name? I think it's Reverend Price in California used to teach that, or walk by faith, not by sight. What kind of silliness is that? Guys, you need to walk by sight, what you see, not by faith. That doesn't make any sense, but let's keep going. But that's the craziness that they teach our people, to believe in the unseen, the first ritual of the Hajj, the spell of ignorance that blinded our race. Mukhraju, outsiders, aliens, foreigners entered Africa with their spell binding za'amat, religions and opinions and lies. By Lawi Tanan, Leviathan, Lucifer from the Kakasu, the curse, and those sub races who obey Pa Kakasu and their overlords, the Tananu, the Dragonians, and their stone tablets, scrolls, which became the Bible and the Quran for their race as their God's chosen people outside of Africa. So this was not for us Africans. And by accepting these, that is why no one teaching for them has been able to really unite our race wherever, not in any considerable numbers. They come and go, they come and go, stand and fall back down, awake and back to sleep. The Pa Hajj Shalal Nawam. And this is also why the race of Africans, Negroids, as a people, no matter where on this Kawak planet, no matter who they mix or marry, had not been able to make real progress towards freedom and inner equality or a quality life. Once you are no longer thinking, you are no longer creating, and thus you are not progressing, guys. The fact that the Mukasu is ruler and control over everything, we're not innovating. They're doing all the innovation, and we're subject to them, guys. We're that's the spell. That's called the slave mind, where they're controlling everything, and we're under their rulership. As we keep talking, now with the help of Pa Kakasu and Leviathan, the God of the Bible and the Quran, the Nagaru are hypnotized with a form of amnesia and can't remember how you built the pyramids or how to read your own Safat, the hieroglyphics. A hypnotic spell to ignore what is your own and accept what is not your own that keeps you mentally surprised and enslaved. Guys, as Africans as a whole, we don't identify Egypt. One of those reasons why we don't identify Egypt, because us Bible going black people, it made Egypt the bad guy. So our people don't want to even identify with Egypt. And the Quran makes Egypt the bad guy because of the whole concept of idols. They're calling our ancestors, they don't want us to identify with our ancestors. And so all these religious people, black people, are rejecting our history. We are rejecting our greatness. But let's keep going. With their white magic powers and devil worship as God, Lord, they seal the hypnosis with spiritual ignorance called akad, which is faith, to reject your own, which is fate, and reject your own salal, your race, and learn to love others. And the only way this spell can be broken and Africans, Negroes, be free of it again, and free indeed, is that spiritual ignorance of six ether, six mind, and six body be destroyed by spiritual confirmations in nature of nine ether, nine mind, and nine body, right? So spiritual confirmations, that's why we teach rituals. You must authenticate that this is real for you personally, guys. That's imperative that you understand that. This is about self-authentication, as I always taught. It's not about belief systems. Now it says the racial blindness will be destroyed by actual facts about who and what you are and was what you did the world over, long before other sub-races were grafted from animals to have fur, which replaced wabar hair. Know yourself, Africans. Know yourself, Nagaru, because it is futile trying to free hypnotize people without the black magic formula that will reverse this hypnotic spell, which is keeping your shakas people in mental and physical captivity to others, religious and beliefs. The black magic or Khamem tat of the Khamem right? This is our ancestors, the Khamunu, they called us, which represented Nun Tat, Hu Tat Hu, Ku Tat Ku, and Amun Tat Amun, right? That's in our Egyptian ancestors, those who came from the waters in ancient, in our ancient Egyptian culture. Our ancestors were amphibians, but let's keep going. Says our black magic formula that reverses and destroys the evil white magic of Shazamu, the bloodsuckers, or Lawi Tanen, and the hypnotic spell cast on our race 6,000 years ago. So our goal, right, is trying to convince our people to love black again and to stop serving, these other races, the Mukasu. That's not doing anything for us. Right? Why are we serving these other races? Our people, we don't get it. In fact, you know what? I pulled up something. I want to pull up something real quick. Right here, article. I talked about this before. It came out in 2016. The average black family would need 228 years to build the wealth of a white family today. We need 228 years to catch up, guys. 200, and that's how much more money they have than us. 228 years to catch up to their level of wealth. Goes on another article. This one is the wealth gap between blacks and whites is even more enormous and shameful than you think. He goes on to say here, let's see, 40% have zero or negative wealth. This is black people. 40% of our people have either zero or negative wealth, guys. The median white family is worth roughly 69 times more money. They have 69 times more money than we do, guys. Now, according to Dr. Claude Anderson, he's like it's 3,500 times more money. We don't have no money. We have money compared to other black people around the world. We make a lot of money. But keep in mind, we talked about this last week. Most of all our money go to giving it right back to the Mukasu by paying bills. We don't have the ability to accumulate wealth, to build wealth. And they just said it'll take us over 200 years to even catch up. So what's the point in trying to stay in a system that's already rigged against you? Guys, because of racism, white supremacy, the system, capitalism is about competition. I've talked about this before. If the system is rigged by the people who control the system are racist, how are you going to catch up? You're not. That's a joke. That's why they keep putting black people in the media with money, and they represent less than 1% of our population. Your Michael Jordans, your LeBron James, your all these basketball players, football players, your Oprah Winfrey's. They're a fraction of a percentage of our people. They do not represent the masses of our people. So it's imperative that you guys understand that, what we're up against. Right? So it goes on to say, so it is futile trying to unite so-called Negroes or Afro-Europeans or Americans or Caribbeans physically or spiritually without first uniting our souls and etheric beings, that is, uniting mentally. Guys, the only way the master teacher is trying to say, one of the reasons why we're not coming together is because when you start, we're not doing our spiritual work. Once you develop yourself spiritually, this is how you harness Ashak. I keep telling you, you harness the spirit force of Ashak. It's a spirit force. It upgrades your thinking. It upgrades your mind. It puts you at one. It puts you in harmony with your people. We're in disarray is because of the negative spirit forces, and the only way to get those negative spirit forces out of us is through the rituals, through the positive mind. So it's imperative that you guys understand that. We go on to say, those under Leben Sahar, white magic, called sorceries in Revelation chapter 18, verse 23. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voices of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. It says, this is Wakanu, wickedness, with their monks or druids, priests, and nuns or witches, their six ether family spirits, refer to Leviticus chapter 20. Familiar spirits of Moloch, the evil angel, refer to Leviticus chapter 20. And it reads, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and will cut him off, and all that go a whoring after him to commit whoredom with Molech from among their people, and the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards to go a whoring after them. I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. Wiccanism became monotheism, and their books, Bible and Quran, are all about their God, Allah, overlooking their dawa'at, evils. If only they will kill and offer flesh to them. Elohim is offering and sacrifices flesh and blood meals that smell good to them. Refer to Genesis chapter 8, verse 20. Did their Lord God eat flesh? Refer to Genesis chapter 18. And they did eat, it says. What did they eat? The flesh of a calf. Now reread the Bible in Leviticus chapter 1, verse through 18, where you find eating of flesh offerings to devils. Leviticus chapter 17, verse 7. And they shall no more offer their sacrifices unto devils, after whom they have gone a whoring. This shall be a statute forever unto them throughout their generations. So their offspring, the Mukasu, love to eat flesh to this day, and have their religious rituals of sacrifices, as you also read in their Quran. 108, originally chapter 15, verse 3. And Allah acts in the Quran 108:2. So prayer is for their Rab, Lord, overlord, and sacrifice, kill, slaughter, offerings of blood. And just as in the Torah and the Bible and the Quran repeats this ritual of killing animals and humans, wars, killing, destruction, famine, floods, and fire from heaven, that is their religion and their gods, flesh eating. This is the smell called this is the spell called white magic, the white light. It's wickedness. Genesis chapter 6, verse 1. The same God or Elohim as one El or Yahweh and Jah asked Cain and Abel for blood offerings. Refer to Genesis chapter 2. And were mad at Cain because he did not offer flesh and blood. Genesis chapter 4, verse 5. Yet Abel's offering of his flock, that is flesh and blood, was accepted. Genesis chapter 4, verse 4. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. This white light is from Nanar, whose name means the bright one, who is their God, who requires sacrifices, also called sin in the Bible. Father of Cain, who was warned by the Lord, who was inky to do what was right, or sin, Nana, would rule him, guys. And so that's, we're going to get into the true stories of the Bible, the origins of a lot of these stories. But our people, if they only understood that these books were written by these particular beings who are not originally from this planet, and they come to this planet, and that's what the whole Bible is trying to explain, that these beings came to this planet and set up shop. He goes on to say in verse Genesis 4:7, it says, if thou dost well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou dost not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. Remember, sin is moon culture, right? The ancient deity of sin represents the moon, which represents Leviathan, which represents Lucifer, which represents the morning star, the moon cycle, the cycle of the moon, the children of the moon. Our ancestors, you guys, we used to know these things. We used to know the differences in cycles, what happens when a cycle change, how it'll benefit one species and affect another species. We're now in a sun cycle. This is our time to rise, to resurrect. Let's keep going. It says, and Cain did not listen, and the anger of jealousy consumed him, and he rose up against his brother Abel and struck him down dead. Once the covenant of Abraham was made with his God, a covenant of flesh, the covenant of circumcision, all of those under Abraham and born in his house and brought into his house were to keep this covenant, to offer blood meat. To cut or circumcision was a physical reminder of this agreement to continue to sacrifice and supply their God or gods or overlords with flesh and blood to consume, or they would be consumed. This continued today, and all those under the religions of Abraham, be it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam, you are bound by this covenant because you worship these beings that are not what you think they are, and their rapture already occurred in the year 2000 in Nome, Alaska. Guys, look up the reportings of missing people in the last 20 years. It's been millions of people reported missing, guys. I think just last year alone, they reported like 400,000 or 500,000. The year before that was like 600,000 people go missing, just disappear. Look it up. They're being raptured. Let's keep going. It says, many were taken up and will not be returned by these beings who are Tananu, reptilians. My Haradu, children, reread all this now that you can see and will recognize who the gods of the Bible and the Quran really are. Yet, how can I break the spell if Nagato have not learned to love other than self and kind, or kin and kind? If we can achieve mental unity by rejecting alien beliefs and cultures, return their religions, and unite as a race first, we will automatically break the spell and be physically united, because once the mind is united, of course, the body follows. People talk and act the way that they think. Hence, the results of ignorant words and ignorant works bring about an ignorant people, which the other races call Negroes. If the mind of those of a kind or kindred are enslaved, then whole races is enslaved no matter what they think, by accepting other spirit forces or deities, and no matter how they dress or pray or accept as religions of aliens, no matter where on earth they may choose to live, right? Now, guys, this is just a reprint of what I've been what the master teacher put out in 1967 in the Bible Interpretations and Explanations book. And we also, when you guys look at the books we put out, the right knowledge scrolls, it's the same information. We keep trying to teach the same information. Why? Because our people to this very day are still feeding this system. We won't let go of the Mukasu system, and we're wondering why we're suffering. And we can't let go because we're, guys, just look what's going on the internet. You know, as students of the master teacher, we're at war with each other, fighting, bickering. Why? We're fighting each other because, guys, these spirits, these negative spirits that the master teacher keep explaining. And if you don't do the rituals, there's no way you're going to get these spirits out of you. But let's keep going. It says the Nagaru Africans must come to accept that other races have accepted the Mukasu Salau as superior. They always change the colors of their own deities to look like Caucasoid or convert to Caucasoid religions, right? He's talking about other people around the world accepted the Mukasu as the most high, and they look like them, dress like them, act like them. They're supporting their whole system. So racism, white supremacy is global, and it's us blacks people against everyone else on the planet. Or we're literally against the straight hair people. But let's keep going. Or try to dress and talk as they do, live their culture, fight their wars, lust after their race, seek to mix their seed, eat their foods, seek to depart to their homelands, to live with Mukasu, not knowing who or what the Mukasu really are by nature. And all are taught do not love or like the Nagaru, right? They teach these other races not to respect us. So they will hate you without reason. The Akal, the mind, is the controller of the actions of a people. So what they are made to accept or believe, they will follow. If the image of God is a Mukasu, then they see you as evil with their mind, controlled by the media, right? This spell is being reinforced every day by the TV, cinema, music, through their tones and frequencies. These tones and frequencies can alter your DNA, thus affecting your vibration. If you accept these foreign tones or sounds into your Mukwan being, you will be changed mentally and physically. We talked about that. Epigenetics talks about how your genetics can change based on your environment, guys. Remember that. Let's keep going. You will no longer be in tune with the voices of your ancestors who are right there waiting to guide you. Guys, this is why we can't make contact, because our morphic resonance is off, so we can't connect with the higher dimensions the master is trying to explain. All you have to do is tune the right station on to your tone and filter past the white noise, just as you do when you are looking for your favorite station on the dial of a radio. So we have to relearn how to correct our morphic frequency so that we can make contact spiritually, guys. He says you can actually help tune yourself by reaching out to them by chanting on your tones as the F key, and learn the tones of your language, NoopooH, or we say Sabat. That's why we keep saying learn to speak Sabat, the language. It's designed to recalibrate us and recalibrate our tones. If the Akal mind of a people is free to think for self and kind and are able to love self and kindred, that people or race will be free, because the mind is the control of all emotions and thereby determines the course that the people or race will take in life. Alien religions ask you to forget your ancestors, calling them gone, past, deceased, or dead, while they have you calling on their dead persons in each prayer, be it Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, and even saints like Mary, who all are dead people linked to their spirit forces, right? So they taught us as Africans to give up calling on our ancestors so we can call on their ancestors. And we're wondering why we're not getting any help, why we're suffering, guys. Because we've been taught to call on their spirit forces who've been plaguing us. But let's keep going. yet teach you it's wrong for you to do the same with your own. Call it juju or voodoo, communicating with the Ka'atapa, the spirit world. Yet they speak of receiving their Holy Ghost, Holy Spirit, speaking to unknown spirits in an unknown tongue called familiar spirits. They light candles, burn incense, talk to prayer beads, visiting tombs, give offerings, and speak to their own dead in their religions, in their prayers and rituals. Yet, if you do it, it's evil or bad. Yet, when they do it, it's a religiously good. They have a mantle with pictures of a deceased relative, and it is nothing more than an altar. We are animists, which means we respect the spirit forces in all things, nature, acknowledged as Mother Nature by some, and are connected to have respect for our relatives who are still very much alive in a different place and time, in a different dimension. Our ancestors are alive, guys. You just have to learn how to make contact as we keep teaching. They will greet and protect you when your time comes to help you cross over to the other side. That's called the second resurrection. When you physically die, if you are connected and you're doing the rituals, right, and you stay in tune, you can make contact. Once you transition, you'll be able to make contact with your ancestors, guys. They who we sometimes refer to as etheric parents, they are that and more as your blood relatives, linked to your DNA. So you are already linked to them and just need to be on your own station to reconnect with them. Again, they use deception, white magic, to keep you from linking up with your loved ones who await you in the spirit realm, because they themselves are trapped here as unclean spirits in a cage, guys. The Mukasu can't resurrect into the higher dimensions. They either going to reincarnate here or they become ghosts and they become trapped, guys. Refer to Revelation chapter 18, verse 2, and it reads, "And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird." And this is the new Babylon that Revelation is talking about right here in America, guys. It goes on to say, there is no hereafter for them, and that is why they have to create a paradise here on earth for themselves. And this is why they keep talking about money and the rich and famous, because they want us to lust after their world. And what did the Bible say? Right? The love of money. What can one get for the love of money and lose their soul? What price you're going to pay for the loss of your soul? They want you to lust after money. There's nothing wrong with having money to build wealth, to help your family, your people. But there's something wrong when you're willing to lie, cheat, steal, deceive for that money, which is what our people are doing. We're killing each other for money. Let's keep going. Their ancient Lord asked them for blood sacrifices, right? To kill things, sprinkle blood, eat flesh offerings, and this seems to be okay to you. They will say their God, Allah, is not asking them to kill for blood or flesh. Yet, if you read their holy books with an open mind, you will see that is exactly what their deities are asking. The sweet smelling savor offered most to the Lord consists of meat, blood, or fat. Refer to Exodus chapter 29, and it reads, that thou shalt burn the whole ram upon the altar. It is a burnt offering unto the Lord. It is a sweet savior and offering made by fire unto the Lord, guys. Leviticus chapter 3, it reads, and the priest shall burn them upon the altar. It is the food of the offerings made by the fire for a sweet savior. All the fat is the Lord's. Yet see in Leviticus chapter 10 that the incense was rejected and Aaron's sons were killed because they did not offer flesh and blood, guys. So when you look at Aaron is the brother of Moses and his sons, Nadab and Abihu, their Lord Yahweh killed them for their strange incense offering. Read this in the Bible in Leviticus chapter 10. It says, and Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took either of them his censer and put fire therein and put incense thereon and offered strange fire before the Lord, which he commanded them not. And there went out fire from the Lord and devoured them, and they died before the Lord. Here's that fire God again, right? Their God killed by fire. So it's important you understand what our people are worshiping, right? Didn't their God ask Abraham to sacrifice his son? And then he decided, okay, you don't have to kill your son, but you still got to make a sacrifice. So he had to sacrifice to this deity of flesh. I think the Lord gave him a ram to sacrifice and slaughter. You see what their religion's about, guys? Blood sacrifice, fire. Let's keep going. Says they lie to you because you don't ask them, why are we praying to dead ancestors, prophets, saints, or unseen spirits of their race and homeland? We, Nagato, need to break the spell of ignorance and stop feeding their forces and link to our own. So here's a breakdown. It says this is your link. You're alive. It's you, your body. You're alive. Parents, you're linked to your parents and their bodies. And then you have your grandparents, bodies and spirits. If they transition, then you have your spiritual living, your great-grand spirits. Then you have oversouls, which is your great-great-grand spirits. And you have etheric beings, ancestors who are pure souls. And then you have divine deities who are also etheric beings. These are the levels of our connection, our spirit connection to our ancestors who exist on higher dimensions, as I keep saying over and over, right? And the ultimate goal is to create a force, what we call pa'ut. When you learn to tap into that source, that's when you're connected to divine love. You know, this is our ultimate goal, guys. It goes on to say, your own bloodline, DNA, genes, cells, spirits, souls, etheric beings who live on and on. They want you to believe in Tayafat. They're ghosts, guys. They want you to believe in Ka'au, spirits. They want you to believe in life after death. They want you to believe in unseen deities or deity. They want you to believe the dead can and will return soon, or at the end of this physical world will all rise from the dead to be judged. Judgment Day, Day of Standing, Day of Atonement, and or resurrection, life after death. Yet, when it comes to your own decease, you are to forget them as passed on, gone. Do not set up altars to honor or remember them, which they call memorials, right? Nor light candles, burn incense, put up a photo, flowers, and speak with them. Why not? You keep photos in your home, on your person, at crime scenes, right? People put flowers, pictures, candles, dolls, you name it, on accident scenes. Yet when we, Nagato, put up an altar, it's bad. And if we have a statue of our ancestors, it's idol worship. This is to trick you, to cut off your link to the spirit world of your own, who will help and guide you, even talk to you, appear to you, and will come to meet you when it's time to cross over. In our culture of Wu-Sabat, we open that link, set up altars to our loved ones, have statues of our ancestors, burn incense, light candles, put up photos and flowers. We do not offer blood, alcohol, or cigar smoke, or food. We respect each to do what they feel works for them. It's, guys, and you guys don't really want to do that, right? This is the problem with things like voodoo and Santeria and Ifa and Yoruba. They don't understand the different dimensions and the different levels of spirit forces, because you have ancestors that are 6 ether spirits and you don't want to contact them. You want to contact the non-ether ones, but you have to raise yourself up to a certain vibration and make contact with those, those oversouls on the higher realms, and you have to know how to do that. You got to even know they exist. Most of our people don't know that. But let's keep going. As I said, we NoopooH respect each to do their own, to worship who or what they wish. We as Afah Ka'au Africans respect others' religions for their Munza'u, warners, Munbe'u, prophets, Mumsa'u, messiahs, Mude'u, Makdis, sent to them, giving them books, tablets, or scrolls. It's their Za'amat, religions, sent to them by whom or whatever. Yet we are Nagaru, and Africa is a spot on a planet where we are placed, and our ancestors are linked to the divine. Your family linked to the spirit realm is up to you. They are there when needed and will help and guide you. There are no hard feelings for things done while in this world. All is forgiven. Yet you yourself must raise to a certain level to reach them, because they can only come down so far, guys. Remember that. You have to learn to raise your vibration. Actually, you got to raise your vibration to the spiritual plane. And we're going to go into that next week. Next week, we're going to talk about how to open up your third eye and how to become one with your oversoul. And you have to learn the different planes. You have to learn to vibrate on. You got to learn about the plane of force. You have to learn about the spiritual plane, and you have to learn about the mental plane and learn how to tune into those things. So we're going to go into that next week. He goes on to say, yet when the mind is out of order or contact, the person's life is out of order. When the minds of Africans are divided by alien religions and accepting and living their cultures, the physical people are divided and will even hate and kill each other for the spirits, specters of others, spirits who rule their emotions and decisions, choices, and sometimes through your very own DNA, guys. You must come to know your inner voices. Separate your inner voice from those of your ancestors or shared or acquired from a spouse. Guys, you have to understand the different spirit forces that's speaking to you. This is where we get our bad habits from, why we can't conquer our bad habits or our addictions, because you get these thoughts to keep doing these things over and over, and you don't realize these are spirits within you. And you have to learn how to identify these different forces that influence your behavior. Right? Says here, your eye must become one. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. I keep talking about you have to learn how to open your third eye. And you can only do it by doing the rituals, by raising your vibration, guys. Let's keep going. One can even be affected by who they will love and marry and mix their mitochondria DNA with, or get another evil's forces in their bloodline that will enslave their minds. Guys, remember, every sexual partner you have, you take on their spirits. Every sexual partner you have, you take on their spirits. That's why in our culture, especially our females now, our females only supposed to have one sexual partner. That's something that demon will never tell y'all. That's why our women are running around going from God to God to God. Look at that. What's that? You look at J-Lo. How many men she's been with? From Puff Daddy to what's that guy? Mark Anthony, and what's that? The Batman guy, and like every week she's with a new guy. What's that? Jeter, the baseball guy she was with. She doesn't realize every time she's going from guy to guy, because Halle Berry was doing the same thing, right? You're taking on all those different spirits. Now, and we're wondering why our children are crazy. Guys, remember, the female is a gateway for spirits. You'll call it pregnancy. The female is a gateway for spirit forces to come into her. We call that pregnancy. We used to be in tune with what spirit can incarnate. But when our women started having multiple mates, you throw off your matrix. You throw off your residency, and you're now incarnating spirits from anywhere. And that's why we're giving birth to demons. We lost our spiritual science. We used to know these things. But I'm gonna get to your question as soon as I'm done, guys. Goes on to say, so I repeat, one can even be affected by who they will love and marry and mix their mitochondria DNA with, or get another evil forces in their bloodline that will enslave their minds. Common knowledge, meaning knowledge that all or the mass majority of Nagato will understand and accept, will unite our minds, link to our Ba soul, and activate our emotions. There can be no mental unity as long as a spell of spiritual ignorance is upon us, and there can be no physical unity as long as the spell of racial rejection is ruling your emotions. When destruction of the spell is complete, the African will have a free and united mind. Wunawap, by the help of the nine nature forces, will destroy the evil spell of confusion, ignorance, apathy, and disunity among us. Wunawap is designed to free, discipline, and unite the minds of our race and others who marry into our race from other races of people. Now, be mindful dealing with other races of people, though, because you remember you take on spirit forces from others. So be mindful of that. He's referring to those who already have mates like that. They can be resurrected, but let's move on. Now, then the rest of our heritage will come as sufficient effort is made to live Wunawap. Speak Nawapuri, or we say speak Misbatia, Sabayat, right? Speak your language and practice our own culture from times past to now. The right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding equals sound right reasoning, guys, are the Hamim Sahar, the black magic, the true chemistry, power to transform genes, alchemy as Pa Hamem, Chemet or Kemet, the black light, the formula necessary to counteract and destroy the Laben Sahar, the white magic, the true Maraz, disease of degeneration, recessive genes. You have the inner powers to reverse the spell and the physical disease placed in your DNA, guys. That's why I said it's okay. I'm not going to argue with anyone who gets the vaccine, because you can burn that out of your cells, out of your genes. Okay. And we're going to get into that next week. Okay. So he goes on to say, the Mukwenu, evil beings over 6,000 years. You can destroy the evil hypnotic spell of amnesia cast on you, guys. We don't. They put a spell on us, and that's why we can't remember our past. Okay, you can overcome that. You can actually reconnect to remember your past once you learn how to resurrect. Now, there's two resurrections. There's the first resurrection, and there's a second resurrection. We're going to do a discussion on that. What is the difference? The first resurrection is learning to make contact while you're still alive. The second resurrection is making contact after you have transitioned, after you have physically died. Okay, your goal should be first resurrection, to make contact while you're still alive. You don't want to wait till you physically die, because we'll get into that. But let's keep going. So it goes on to say, I'm going to read this again. You can destroy the evil hypnotic spell of amnesia cast on you, because Wunawap causes the Nagato to think right and take the right steps towards liberty, justice, and equality amongst each other by the help of the forces of nature, Panatharu, our ancestors, the divine. When a religion does not allow you to think, you are no longer capable of thought, and thus you are out of your mind and under the control of another and will not progress, right? That's why in their religions, they're controlling. They have their leaders, their popes, their priests, their mulanas, their guides. They're controlling the masses of people. They use their religions to control the minds of the people, right? That's why the Pope is like the intercessor to God. They don't teach you how to make direct contact, which is what we teach. How for you to make contact. That's why I keep saying our culture is based on self-authentication. You prove to yourself that this stuff is real. You don't need no freaking person, no intercessor between you and your ancestors and the creative force. Let's keep going. When a religion does not allow you to think, you are no longer capable of thought, and thus you are out of your own mind and under the control of another and will not progress. Wu-Sabat provides all of the questions and answers necessary to break the evil spell. The spell of sleep is broken, and its evil results of disunity, hate for each other, disorder, apathy, and oppression will pass away in this hereafter. 6,000 years ended, and the 24,000 years to renew our story will remove the amnesia. Guys, when you break that spell, you'll connect with your subconscious mind, then you'll connect with your superconscious mind, and your memories will be restored, guys. Let's keep going. All Negroids, Africans who accept the answers and explanations given in Wu-Sabat and the Hakakat, the actual facts, and Taraq will soon be liberated from oppression and captivity and be equal. The Negroid lost their spiritual powers long ago, 6,000 years ago, all except for a few high priests, the Hanutu. Yet Wu-Sabat will restore, and they will regain their powers by destroying ignorance, because without the restoration of our own spiritual powers of 9 mind and 9 ether, we can never be free and equal amongst ourselves. Guys, the only way we're going to beat this dragon is you have to resurrect. That's what the master's trying to say. There's no way. None of these black organizations, nobody's going to beat this being. Y'all don't realize how powerful this being is? You have to restore yourself. We're not in the right mind to beat this dragon we're fighting. We're fighting physical beings and we're fighting spirit beings. Let's keep going. Our own spiritual powers are in Wu-Sabat. Wu, Nu, Whoop, right? As you see, 3 digits, 9 or 999. 9, the highest digit in numbers before it repeats. The word digit is Latin, digitus, and means a finger. Supreme mathematics, the matrix. Latin is mater, or mother, or matron. The power to overpower 666. 999 or 9 mind, 9 ether, 9 nature. Wu-Sabat is our spiritual powers, our spiritual science of Nagato, the woolly-haired children of the heat of Pa-Re'e, the sun. When you put fire close to a strain of hair, it will curl into the digit 9, guys. That's important. You guys remember that, right? When you put fire to hair, it curls. That's why our hair is woolly. What does that mean? We have woolly hair because our electrical flow in our brain synapses is of a higher energy. That's what creates the woolly hair versus the straight hair people. Woolly hair is a sign that you have a higher electrical flow in the brain. That's why we have melanin. At night, you produce melatonin, and that absorbs energy. That's why when you look at, that's how you know the Sands people, the Sands tribe in Africa. That's how you know the Sands tribe are the first people, because they have the most strongest woolly hair on the planet. So that's important for you guys to know that, right? The Sands tribe, they have the strongest woolly hair on the planet. You know, and because this guy, just look up the look up their tight curl, you'll see it. Okay, now it says the stronger the genes, the nappier the hair. The weaker the genes, the thinner the hair. The hair, we call it fur. They really have fur. They don't really have hair. So, you know, that is what it is. Most animals on the earth have fur. This includes all other races. Only the Nagato African race of people, or those who mix with us, can have hair, nappy, kinky, woolly, and 9. You know, our hair, and like scientists call it the solenoid. The sun does that. It curls. That energy, they have these curls, right? That's why the sun creation, everything creates in circles, right? The sun circle, the planet circles, electrons circles, right? Everything is creating this circles. and that represents the cipher, the creative force, and we are the personification of those creative forces in the flesh, the 9 ether children. It's what we are. That's what we are. That's right. That's why they get lice and fleas, Allison. That's actual facts. That's because their genetics are connected to dogs. Their genes, they was mixed with canines by their overlords. They don't want to tell people their true origins, that they were a genetic experiment. These albino children for the Hindus, they were genetic experiments of their overlords who mixed in their DNA with they mixed it in with a species of monkeys, they mixed it in with pigs, and they mixed their DNA with the wolf. And so they had that animal DNA. That's why that's what cut them off, from resurrection, because their overlords messed up their genetics. The Mukasu, they messed up their genetics, and we're gonna get into that. But if you guys, I'm done. This was long, but I'm done. If you guys have any questions, I'll address, anything. If anyone have anything before we close out, I'll address anything. It says that let's see. My doors. Gawada asks, how do you do the meditation? Do you use Sabian mantras? Yeah, we have, and we're gonna get into that next week, guys. We definitely have we'll call affirmations, right? And I have some affirmations, and I talked about this before. How to become one with your oversoul by raising your vibration. Chant each affirmation 100 times, 3 times a day, each and every day, for 270 days straight. If you can do that, it's like 9 months, right? Now, whenever you're doing the prayers or chants, we say begin our prayer and thinking as a part of all. So your goal is to connect with the blackness of the universe, the creative force, right? That's pa'ut. And so that's what you're trying to connect to, this to the all, to this creative force. And so you say Bade Kalau Namasat Wu-Sabat Amar Kasamun Shalil Pa'ut. And that means begin our prayers and thinking as a part of all. So you want to start with that before you do any kind of rituals, right? And so you say it in our language, Lahaj, right? And so the translation is Bade Kalau Namasat Wu-Sabat Amar Kasamun Shalil Pa'ut. That's what you start with. Now, an affirmation, when you want to connect with your oversoul, it says, I want to be you. You visualize your higher self, your etheric self, your higher self. You say, I want to be you, but you do it in our language, right? So you go, Nokuk Dayalake Aquino and Tak. That's for a male. If you're female, you say Nakuk Dayalake Aquino and Tat. The antat is the other one. So it's antak for male or antat for female. And you're visualizing wanting to make contact with your oversoul, right? That's important. Here's another affirmation. This one you say, remember the pure green healing light all around and inside me. Okay? That's the energy. This is the etheric energy you're tapping into. We call it the green light healing energy. So in our language, the way you recite that is as kor pa tahir khada shafui nawar kalau hawu jawef niya. As kor pa tahir khada shafui nawar kalau hawu jawef niya. As kor pa tahir khada shafui nawar kalau hawu jawef niya. Right? So you chant that 100 times. You guys can get the prayer beads that the Muslims use. They have 100 beads on that, right? And so you get the prayer beads and you chant each one using the prayer beads 100 times. And then you have the last one. This one is, I will travel I will safely travel out of body today if you're chanting it during the day, or I will safely travel out of body tonight if you're doing it tonight. Now, let me, as a warning, as a disclaimer, you guys cannot do any kind of spiritual practices, any kind of rituals, unless you're in a positive mind. You only can do rituals in a positive mind. You cannot do rituals under the influence of drugs. You can't do rituals under the influence after you just had sexual relations. You can't do rituals when you had an argument or debate with someone. If you're in a negative energy, you cannot do rituals. You do not open yourself up, because when you open yourself up spiritually and you're in a negative mind, that negative mind attracts negative spirit forces. You make it easy for them to possess you. It has happened to our people. It has happened to our people. So remember that. I warn you, I warn you, I warn you. When you're doing spiritual work, you must always be in the power of love, in a positive mind. You want to be in harmony. Okay? What happened? I didn't see anything. So I can't stress that enough, guys. When we're doing chants, always in the positive mind. Okay. So, but we're gonna get into that. So next week we're gonna focus on how to open up your third eye and become one with your oversoul. Right. So we're gonna get into the details of that because it's very important that you guys are familiar with those things for your journey. Okay. With that being said, we're going to get into our prayers, right? Because we passed our affirmation time, which is supposed to be at 9. So we're going to get into that. Our prayers. Also, when you're doing rituals, like especially if you want to make contact with the Nathar, you visualize the Nathar. That's one of the reasons why we have pictures of the Nathar for those who are familiar with that, and I've told you before, right? You can make contact with Panda Bat. That's the oversoul of Dr. Malakazi Kayor. And you can make contact with the other Morzaku, Riskians, right? And so you can chant their names to make contact with them. Right, for those who who are trying to make contact, or agreeable ancestors like a family member, a grandparent, or someone have their pictures up. That's one of the things, and you can visualize, you can chant. Okay, that's another thing to make contact, to visualize. All right, now keep in mind when you're doing these things, you want to do it in short bursts, right? Like 20 minutes to a half hour to an hour, no more than an hour. The key is little bursts. You can do it like twice a day, right? But the key is doing it every day. Those little bursts adds up after 30 days of doing these things. Okay, so that's important. So I've talked about this before when chanting Yanun, right? And then you have Razun, then you have Zanun, the Mozaku in the middle, and Zakun, and the one on the end. So Yanun, Razun, Zanun, Zakun, Yanun, Razun, Zanun, Zakun, Yanun, Razun, Zanun, Zakun. That's what you learn. You learn how to do that, how to chant, and you chant. We're chanting in the A tone. That's another important thing. That's one of the reasons why we have that sound, because your body vibrates on A. Okay, and so that's one of the things we'll get into next week. You guys got to be familiar with the different states of consciousness. right? You have delta brain waves, you have theta brain waves, you have alpha brain waves, and you have beta brain waves. Guys, look that up. The different brain waves, which are the different levels of consciousness. When you're in sleep mode, you're in the delta mode brain waves. When you're dreaming, you're in the theta brain waves, and that's dreaming and deep meditation. Okay, and theta, which is theta and alpha brain waves, and when you're in that meditated state. Okay, when you're awoke, you're in beta. When you're reasoning, you're in beta. All right, so that's important. Children from the age of 0 to 7, they are in alpha waves. That's why children are easy to be influenced, because they're in the alpha state. From a child, from infancy, all the way up to 7 years old, they're in alpha state before they're moving into beta. But we'll get into that as we're going through this information. Okay, so we're going to get into our ending chants, right? And before we close out, and we'll go from there. And guys, learn to do these chants while I'm going through it. You guys could do it in your home. Get used to the tones, get used to the flow of the chants. Okay, and eventually we're gonna have. I told you before, we're gonna start doing language classes. We're gonna do another day to focus on these things specifically. All right. Bade kala namasat wufak or amar kasamun shalil pa'ut pa takyu anuki jawef pa ashuk im pa pa'ut wu kala ashuk kawun jawef neya anuki kasam un im pa pa'ut wu pa pa'ut kawun kasam un im neya anuki wahu amar pa pa'ut wu pa pa'ut kawun wahu amar neya Naku Kodor Naju Amar Kasamun Impa Paut Wu Habu Amar Muskasun Naku Kodor Kawan Kala Pafaf Naku Daya Jaweb Pa Paut Amar Wase Amar Dayani Kawun Lake Bakui Jaweb Pa Paut Anuki Yababi Nafasni Pa Paut Kawun Anuki Pa Paut Kador Naku Kador Pa Paut Amul Naku Amul Lahehum Manahnun, Lahehum Manahnun, Ahumata Karehum, Ahumata Karekum, Ahumata Karenun, Ahumata Jawefnea, Ahumata Naya Wu Anukihum, Yaye Ashuk Re'e, Asmua Jaye Nun, Yaye Nataru Afuknun, Anunata Mukra Ukum, Yaye Nataru Afuknun, 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 Yaye Natarunun, Anun, Atun, Atun, Amun. Namazo Wahu, Yaye Mufaku, Yayehu, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Yaye soye, yaye nataru, yaye hika, yaye nataru, ankum atapa mufaku, yaye hu, yaye nataru, ankum atapa mufaku, wu anunata mukra ukum, wu ankum ata musanun, yaye hu, yaye nataru, aro muklasnun, atum re'e, Yayehu, Yaye Nataru, Namazo Atu, Aroenhu, Yaye Muktamu Afutnun, Ankum Mane Yakela Duda Muslafunun, Wu Musa Unun, Mane Yake Sawura Paba, Mane Yake Kawuna Ka'u, Mane Yake Ata Achach, Mane Yake Kawuna Basha Wu Damam, Yaye Nataru Muktamunun, Aro Muftanun, Anhu Kawun Mazamane Pan Ataru, Aro Anhu Kawun Baba Yananun, Aro Anhu Kawun Atum Re'e, Aro Anhu Kawun Haror, Namazo Talu, Yaye Nataru Muslafunun. Afut nun Menepe Mujwau. Afut nun Menegal Ha'an. Yaye Nataru Afut nun Menesaya Gayara. Afut nun Afut Neye. Afut nun Afut Neye. Yaye Nataru nun Namazo Rabu Pa Tahmui. Nakuk Talub Tahmui Bipa Nataru. Menepe Laen Lawi Tanen U. Kaleh Ranam Atni At the Lahepa Nataru. Wu Kaleh Namazo Atni At the Lahe Kayat Yatun Layepa Nataru. Pasawa Wu Pa Turuk. Panem Misfa Kawun. Pasawa Wu Pa Turuk. Z Kawuna Nazula Lahe Enkun. Manem Maspa at Wu Masa. Amade En Wu Dama Manem Muslafukun. Wu Nataru. Ajulaye Nafasukun. Afuk Shane Kawun Kun. Pasawa Wu Pa Turuk. Pa Hadean Wu Pa Shafe. And Nun Tawa Ankum. Lahe Panan Dama Wu Shafe. And Nun Tawa Ankum. Lahe Tim Nasui Nun. And Nun Tawa Ankum. Lahe Ashukuma. Ankum at the Muslafunun. Anun at the Mukraukum. Anun Talub Nasakuma. Anun Talub Nasakuma. And so nun kahenataru. And so nun muslafunun. Anun at the musba'u. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amun. Yaye nataru nun. Yaye mufta'u. Yaye nataru. Yaye atun re'e. Yaye natar. Yaye nun. Yaye natar. Yaye nun tat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye ha. Yaye natar. Yaye hatat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye kak. Yaye natar. Yaye kaktat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye amun. Yaye natar. Yaye amun tat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye mufkam uyi. Yaye nataru. Yaye atun. Yaye natar. Yaye shashash. Yaye natar. Yaye tafaf natat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye sabab. Yaye natar. Yaye natat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye arash tat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye asar. Yaye natar. Yaye nabab tahatat. Yaye natar tat. Yaye satach. Yaye natar. Yaye harah. Yaye natar. Nataru shalil pameye. Yaye haktwi. Yaye natar. Yaye anaktat. Yaye natartat. Yaye aha haratwi. Yaye natar. Nataru shalil panawar. Yaye nafartum. Yaye natar. Yaye manthu. Yaye natar. Yaye bapti. Yaye natar. Yaye sakhamtat. Yaye natartat. Yaye hara haratat. Yaye natar. Yaye natartat. Yaye ba ibis. Yaye natar. Yaye patata. Yaye natar. Yaye bastat. Yaye natartat. Yaye imhatat. Yaye natar. Natar shalil pahawe. Yaye anhu. Yaye natar. Yaye matat. Yaye natartat. Yaye mahatat. Yaye natartat. Yaye kafaf ra'e. Yaye natar. Yaye miskanat. Yaye natartat. Yaye rayetat. Yaye natartat. Yaye kentimentiu. Yaye natar. Yaye hika'ah. Yaye natartat. Yaye natartat. Yaye natartat. Yaye ma'at. Yaye natartat. Yaye renantat. Yaye natartat. Yaye she. Yaye natartat. Yaye sashat. Yaye natartat. Yaye maktat. Yay Nathatat. The thought of Shalil Pataha. Yay Sabak. Yay Nathar. Yay Anab. Yay Nathar. Yay Khanum. Yay Nathar. Yay Khanas. Yay Nathar. Yay Patat Tanun. Yay Nathar. Yay Saye. Yay Nathar. Yay Haktat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Amas. Yay Nathar. Yay Saratwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Atum Re'e. Yay Nathatat. Yay Dahutwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Patata Warat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Sakartat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Ha. Yay Nathar. Yay Nahab Ka'ah. Yay Nathar. Yay Sakar. Yay Nathar. Yay Ba'ah. Yay Nathar. Yay Akar. Yay Nathar. Yay Imharatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Wapawatat. Yay Nathar. Yay Sakat Hataptat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Murditat Sakartat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Tats. Yay Nathatat. Yay Garatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Asat Inu. Yay Nathar. Yay Bahatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Khanamtat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Manaktat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Chamem. Yay Nathar. Yay Mahatwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Kabef Senanafaf. Yay Nathar. Yay Da Matafaf. Yay Nathar. Yay Murditat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Nasat. Yay Nathar. Yay Em Dadatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Nachakbatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Sakatat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Anachtat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Dadad. Yay Nathar. Yay Tum. Yay Nathar. Yay Wahu. Yay Nathar. Yay Yasas. Yay Nathar. Yay Anach. Yay Nathar. Yay Afnawit. Yay Nathar. Yay Satat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Sakhatwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Emmaat. Yay Nathar. Yay Nanah. Yay Nathar. Yay Inuit. Yay Nathar. Yay Em Sataktwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Mugdaltat. Yay Nathatat. Yay Rahashafaf. Yay Nathar. Yay Maratwi. Yay Nathar. Yay Amun Re'e. Yay Nathar. Yehu. Anun. Ata Kaled Jawef Pa'ut. Nun Re'e. Tun Re'e. Tun Re'e. Mun Re'e. Yay Amun. 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 Agenda 4. Okay. All right, guys. that was it. We covered a lot, and I'm always telling you guys to rewatch the lectures again. Definitely watch it again. Take notes, focus on it, study this stuff. Really try to understand a lot of the things we went over today. It was a lot of information, and it was necessary information. Okay, and so I highly recommend you guys definitely be watching and taking your time, because we covered a lot of things. We gave a lot of references on a lot of concepts, so that's extremely important. But until next week, guys, be blessed, right? Be blessed, and definitely be safe, guys. I'm gonna put on the as a closeout. I'm gonna put on the prayer system that students have went through, where you can hear the way they do it in their tones. They're doing the chants, and so you guys can also listen to other students and how they do the chants in the tones that it should be done in, right? So let me see if I have that to put on so you guys can listen to it as a closeout. I thought I had it, and let me find it real quick so you guys can. Here it is. Here it is. All right. Until then, guys. Ashak.
Pentacle. Anuki Jawepa Ashok Embabaot. Wukaleo Ashok Kawen Jawef Naya. Anuki Kasamun Embabaot. Wupabaot Kawen Kasamun Emnaya. Anuki Wahu Amepabaot. Wupabaot Kawen Wahu Amenaya. Nakukador Nasho Amakasamun Embabaot. Wukabu Amam Mushkashun. Nakukador Kawen Kaler Pafef Nakuk Dayor Jawef Papaot. Ame Wase Ame Dayor Ni Kawen Lake Bako Jawef Papaot. Anuki Yebebi Nafashni. Papaot Kawen Nanuki. Papaot Kador Nakuk Kador. Papaot Amun Nakuk Amun. Lahehum Manetnum. Lahehum Manetnum. Antum Mater Karehum. Antum Mater Karerkum. Antum Mater Karernum. Antum Mater Jawef Neya. Antum Mater Neya Wu Anukihum. Yaye Ashokre. Ashmujaye Nun. Yaye Natharu Outfutnun. Anun Adir Mukradokum. Yaye Natharu Outfutnun. Outfutnun. Yaye Natharu Nun. Anun. Atun. Atun. Namaz or waku, yaye mufaku. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Yaye soye, yaye nataru. Yaye hika, yaye nataru. Amkumater pamufaku. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Amkumater pamufaku. Uanunater mukradokum. Woantkum mater mushalun. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Aromum klasun atumre. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Yaye soye, yaye nataru. Yaye hika, yaye nataru. Amkum mater pamufaku. Yaye hu, yaye nataru. Akumater pamufakum. Uenunater muklarakum. Uenkumater muisarnun. Yaye nataru. Aro muklasnun atumbreye. Yaye nataru. Yaye nataru. Yaye nataru. Yaye nataru. Amkumater pamufaku. Yaye nataru. Amkumater pamufaku. Uenunater muklarakum. Uenkumater muisanun. Yaye nataru. Aroma klasmun atumbreye. Yaye nataru.
Namaz or aku. Aro and
Yaye muktamu afutnun. Antkum maneja kela dura muslafunun. Moisorunun. Maneja kesa wura paba. Maneja ke kawura kau. Maneja ke adir akak. Maneja ke kawuna washawudamam. Yaye natoru muktamunun. Aro muftadun. Anhu kawun mansaba nepa natoru. Aro anhu kawun babayananan. Aro anhu kawun latumreye. Aro anhu kawun aror. Yaye muktamu afutnun. Antkum maneja ke ladura muslafunun. Musorunun. Maneja ke sawura baba. Maneja ke kawuna kau. Maneja ke adir akak. Maneja ke kawuna basharu damam. Yaye natoru muktamunun. Aro muftadun. Anhu kawun mansaba nepa natoru. Aro anhu kawun babayananan. Aro anhu kawun latumreye. Aro anhu kawun aror. Yaye muktamu afutnun. Antkum maneja ke ladura muslafunun. Muisorunun. Maneja ke sawura paba. Maneja ke kawuna kau. Maneja ke adir akak. Maneja ke kawuna washawudamam. Yaye natoru muktamunun. Aro muftadun. Anhu kawun manzaba nepa natoru. Aro anhu kawun babayananan. Aro anhu kawun latumreye. Aro anhu kawun aror.
namaz or thal.
Yaye natoru muslafunun. Afutnun manepa mutwaru. Afutnun manega halan. Yaye natoru afutnun. Manet sayur ayura. Afutnun afutneya. Yaye natorunun. Yaye natoru muslafunun. Afutnun manepa mutwaru. Afutnun manega halan. Yaye natoru afutnun. Manet sayur ayura. Afutnun afutneya. Yaye natorunun. Yaye natoru muslafunun. Afutnun manepa mutwaru. Afutnun manega halan. Yaye natoru afutnun. Manet sayur ayura. Afutnun afutneya. Yaye natorunun.
Namaz or rahu pa takmoy. Nakuk talo takmoy be pa natoru. Manel pa la en la we tananu. Kale ranamati atir la e pa natoru. Wu kale namazor atli atir la e hayati ya la e pa natoru.
Nakota lukta moy bin panatoru. Mane pala in la weta nanu. Kalera na matni aterlae panatoru. Wu kalera na mazoratni aterlae kayati aterlae panatoru. Nakota lukta moy bin panatoru. Mane pala in la weta nanu. Kalera na matni aterlae panatoru. Kalena mazoratni aterlae kayati aterlae panatoru. Pasawabu patara. Panan misfakawun. Pasawabu pataruk. Zeka wunana zulalahe antkum. Manemas batku masa. Amahadeye ungudamarun. Manemus lafukum. Wunatharu. Arjulaya nafasukum. Aufukshane kawunkum. Pasawabu pataruk. Pahadayanu pashafe. Anutawu antkum. Lahe panandamawu shafe. Anutawu antkum. Lahetim nasoinun. Anutawu antkum. Lahe ashukuma. Antkum ate muslafunun. Anun ate mukradukum. Anun talu nasarkuma. Anun talu nasarkuma. And sornu kainatoru. And sornu muslafunun. Anun ate musbatu. Anun atum. Atum. Amun. Panan misfakawun. Pasawabu pataruk. Zeka wunana zulalahe antkum. Manemas pasbu masa. Amahadeyen ungundamarun. Manemus lafukum. Wunatharu. Arjuleya nafasukum. Afukshane kawunkum. Pasawabu pataruk. Pahadayanu pashafe. Anuntawu antkum. Lahe panandamawu shafe. Anuntawu antkum. Lahetim nasoinun. Anuntawu antkum. Lahe ashokuma. Antkum ate muslafunun. Anun ate mukradukum. Anun talu nasarkuma. Anun talu nasarkuma. And sornun kainatoru. And sornun muslafunun. Anun ate muspatu. Anun atum. Atum. Amun. Panan misfakawun. Pasawabu pataru. Zeka wunana zulalahe antkum. Manemas batbu masa. Amahadeyenu mudamayun. Manemus lafukum. Wunatharu. Arjuleya nafasukum. Afukshane kawunkum. Pasawabu pataruk. Pahadayanu pashafe. Anutawu antkum. Lahe panandamawu shafe. Anutawu antkum. Lahetim nasoinun. Anutawu antkum. Lahe ashukuma. Antkum ate muslafunun. Anun ate mukradukum. Anun talu nasarkuma. Anun talu nasarkuma. And sornu kainatoru. And sornu muslafunun. Anun ate musbatu. Anun atum. Atum. Amun. Natarunun.
Yaye atumbre yaye nator.
Yaye atumbre yaye nator.
Yaye nun yaye nator.
Yaye nun yaye nator.
Yaye nun tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye nun tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye ha yaye nator.
Yaye ha yaye nator.
Yaye hatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye hatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye kak yaye nator.
Yaye kak yaye nator.
Yaye katat yaye nator tat.
Yaye katat yaye nator tat.
Yaye amun yaye nator.
Yaye amun yaye nator.
Yaye amun tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye amun tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye atum yaye nator.
Yaye atum yaye nator.
Yaye shashash yaye nator.
Yaye shashash yaye nator.
Yaye tafak natat yaye nator tat.
Yaye tafaf natat yaye nator tat.
Yaye sabab yaye nator.
Yaye sabab yaye nator.
Yaye natat yaye nator tat.
Yaye natat yaye nator tat.
Yaye arash tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye arash tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye asar yaye nator.
Yaye asar yaye nator.
Yaye nabab tat tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye nabab tat tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye satach yaye nator.
Yaye satach yaye nator.
Yaye harar yaye nator.
Yaye harar yaye nator.
Yaye hatui yaye nator.
Yaye hatui yaye nator.
Yaye anak tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye anak tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye aha haratui yaye nator.
Yaye aha haratui yaye nator.
Yaye nafartum yaye nator.
Yaye nafartum yaye nator.
Yaye mantu yaye nator.
Yaye manfu yaye nator.
Yaye bhakti yaye nator.
Yaye bhakti yaye nator.
Yaye saham tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye sakam tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye hatat harat tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye hatat harat tat yaye nator tat.
Yaye baibis yaye nator.
Yaye baibis yaye nator.
Yaye pata yaye nator.
Yaye patata yaye nator.
Yaye bastat yaye nator tat.
Yaye bastat yaye nator tat.
Yaye imhatat yaye nator.
Yaye inhatat yaye nator.
Yaye anhu yaye nator.
Yaye anhu yaye nator.
Yaye matat yaye nator tat.
Yaye matat yaye nator tat.
Yaye mahat yaye nator tat.
Yaye mahat yaye nator tat.
Yaye khafaf yaye nator.
Yaye kafaf yaye nator.
Yaye maskhanat yaye nator tat.
Yaye maskanat yaye nator tat.
Yaye rayetat yaye nator tat.
Yaye rayetat yaye nator tat.
Yaye khanti mantiu yaye nator.
Yaye kanti mantiu yaye nator.
Yaye hikaya yaye nator tat.
Yaye hikah yaye nator tat.
Yaye natatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye nafatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye maat yaye nator tat.
Yaye ma'at yaye nator tat.
Yaye ranantat yaye nator tat.
Yaye ranantat yaye nator
Yaye
tat.
shai yaye nator tat.
Yaye shai yaye nator tat.
Yaye sashat yaye nator tat.
Yaye sashat yaye nator tat.
Yaye mafdat yaye nator tat.
Yaye mafdat yaye nator tat.
Yaye sabak yaye nator.
Yaye sabak yaye nator.
Yaye anak yaye nator.
Yaye anak yaye nator.
Yaye khanum yaye nator.
Yaye khanum yaye nator.
Yaye khanas yaye nator.
Yaye kanas yaye nator.
Yaye patata nun yaye nator.
Yaye patata nun yaye nator. Yaye soye yaye nator.
Yaye soye yaye nator.
Yaye haktat yaye nator tat.
Yaye haktat yaye nator tat.
Yaye amas yaye nator.
Yaye amas yaye nator.
Yaye saratui yaye nator.
Yaye soratui yaye nator.
Yaye atum reye yaye nator
Yaye
tat.
atum yaye nator tat.
Yaye gahutui yaye nator.
Yaye tahutui yaye nator.
Yaye patah ha warat yaye nator tat.
Yaye patata uret yaye nator tat.
Yaye sakatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye sakatet yaye nator tat.
Yaye hach yaye nator.
Yaye ha yaye nator.
Yaye nahabkah yaye nator.
Yaye nahabka yaye nator.
Yaye sakar yaye nator.
Yaye sakar yaye nator.
Yaye bah yaye nator.
Yaye ba yaye nator.
Yaye akar yaye nator.
Yaye akar yaye nator.
Yaye inharatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye imharatat yaye nator tat.
Yaye wapawatat yaye nator.
Yaye wapawatat yaye nator.
ye sakat hatat tat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye sakata tapta ya ye natortat.
Ya ye maritat sakotat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye maritat sakortat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye so ye tat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye suyetat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye karatat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye garatat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye asat enu ya ye nathor.
Ya ye asatinu ya ye nator.
Ya ye bahatat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye bahatat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye kalamtat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye khanamtat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye manaktat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye manaktat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye khamam ya ye nathor.
Ya ye khamam ya ye nator.
Ya ye mahatwi ya ye nathor.
Ya ye mahatwi ya ye nator.
Ya ye kabasana nafaf ya ye nathor.
Ya ye kabasana nafaf ya ye nator.
Ya ye da matat afaf ya ye nathor.
Ya ye da'amatat nafaf ya ye nator.
Ya ye manitat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye maritat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye nasat ya ye nathor.
Ya ye nasat ya ye nator.
Ya ye imnatat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye imdatatat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye nakakwatat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye nakhakpatat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye sakatat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye sakhatat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye yanaktat ya ye nathortat.
Ya ye natat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye navar ya ye navar.
Ya ye jadad ya ye nator.
Ya ye tum ya ye nathor.
Ya ye tum ya ye nator.
Ya ye wahu ya ye nathor.
Ya ye wahu ya ye nator.
Ya ye yasas ya ye nathor.
Ya ye yasas ya ye nator.
Ya ye yanach ya ye nathor.
Ya ye anach ya ye nator.
Ya ye afaf nuit ya ye nathor.
Ya ye afaf nuit ya ye nator.
Ya ye satat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye satat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye sakatwi ya ye nathor.
Ya ye sakatwi ya ye
Ya
nator.
ye emma ya ye nathor.
Ya ye ammat ya ye nator.
Ya ye nanach ya ye nathor.
Ya ye nanat ya ye nator.
Ya ye emnuit ya ye nathor.
Ya ye emnuit ya ye nator.
Ya ye emsatatwi ya ye nathor.
Ya ye emsatatwi ya ye nator.
Ya ye mudautat ya ye
Ya
nathortat.
ye mugdautat ya ye natortat.
Ya ye rahashafaf ya ye nathor.
Ya ye rahashafaf ya ye nator.
Ya ye marotwi ya ye nathor.
Ya ye maratwi ya ye nator.
Ya ye amure ya ye nathor.
Ya ye amur ya ye nator.
Aduna te kalel chawef paut.
Ready?
All right, cool.